She should be able to take care of herself, like other girls her age, but instead, it's a daily struggle to come to terms with the physical and emotional wounds inflicted by the teacher who beat her with a hosepipe 2 years ago.
It made me feel so angry and then so frustrated because I'm not like before. It's like I'm not like other kids. It's like I'm disabled now because of the teacher.
This special assignment episode will tell the story of a mother's plight to attain justice for her daughter. At the same time, we look at a landmark decision by the South Gauteng High Court, which found the defense of reasonable chastisement of children unconstitutional.
And there is such a grey line between what constitutes discipline and what is in fact abusive behavior.
She's your typical teenage girl with dreams of becoming an independent businesswoman. Her home in Mfuleni in Cape Town is filled with pictures of her posing with merit awards just before the attack. The 15-year-old girl was assaulted in a class full of her terrified peers 2 years ago. She recalls with vivid detail the day her teacher at Nalinkamva Primary School beat her so severely that the nerve in her right hand could be permanently damaged. Her only crime was that she allegedly failed to complete her homework.
I was in the classroom with another learners, and then the teacher came into the class, and then she said we must keep our books, and then we must exchange them. And then we exchanged them, and then she told me that I must go and write in the board a correction. And then I went to the board and write the correction. And then one of the students next to me said I didn't write a classwork, a homework. And then the teacher said all the children that did not write the classwork must stand in the board. And then they stand in the board, and she take a hosepipe and beat them. And then she said I must finish writing in the board so that she can beat me too. When the teacher beat me, my arm was so swollen. I tell my mother, and then I tell one of my classmates that my hand is so swollen. The doctor said that the teacher affected the nerve. She treated me badly. She beat children many times. Sometimes if you didn't do her work, she just beat you. And then if you are making a noise, she beat you. One of my friends told me, she said, do you know that at school didn't stop beating children? And then I said, wow, I thought they are not beating children anymore. And then she said, they are.
She says she remembers her teacher's anger every time she attempts to complete a task such as getting dressed for school, a task that her mother, who is frustrated by the delays in receiving justice for her little girl, must assist her with.
That's why I decided to take my child to put another school, because my child didn't feel comfortable, because every time if she come to school, she's always a complaint, Daddy, Mommy, hey, I've got a complaint, man, I'm not feeling well in that school. So I said, no, my darling, it's the beginning of the year now, and you're still young, so you can try, don't listen. She said, Mama, I try to do so, but the teachers are making a funny, like, I don't know what can I say, victimize me. Yeah, the teachers are victimizing me. You see, so I decided to phone to Nondumiso Stofile, one of the lady are working for Department of Education, for looking another place for my daughter. Then she do it so, and then I get this to the new school, maybe April, if I didn't make a mistake, between April and May, I didn't get the support with the department. Because the day the Department of Education, he was coming here, he just come to ask what's happening.
Although the girl was victimized at Nalinkamva, she has, according to her parents, integrated well at her new school and made new friends. Her parents say the teachers at her new school have provided a support structure. No counseling was made available to the family, despite promises being made by the Western Cape Education Department and the Department of Social Development. They are now reliant on the criminal justice system to intervene. The teacher was charged with assault to do grievous bodily harm in a case that is currently before the Blue Downs Magistrates Court, set to continue on the 1st of November. The Western Cape Education Department also conducted its own investigation and found the teacher guilty of misconduct. In previous correspondence, that same department said it found that the teacher did not intend to do grievous bodily harm. Attempts were made to further engage the Western Cape Education Department about the decision that allowed the teacher back at the school. Its only response was that the matter was sub judice. Trying to get answers from authorities has been challenging for the girl's mother. Her frustration has been building for 2 years. Shortly after the case was opened, the teacher went to see the girl's mother to offer an explanation for her actions.
I go to open the case for this thing because I must do something, because I feel the pain, and also my daughter, she didn't feel well. Then I go to open the case to the police station, but the case is still continuing as from 2015 till now. So I don't know what's happening. She's supposed to come to apologize, you see, but she didn't do that. You see, because the teacher, when I saw the teacher, she got a pride. You see, instead of coming here, she didn't do that. But the day the social worker are going to the Nalikamva, she came with Miss Mpapela, another teacher, to ask here in my house if what's happening, because he saw the cars, the department cars in the school. So what's happening? Then I asked, we are coming from Nalikamva to ask what's happening, because we saw the car, so we saw the department cars. So in other words, what you are trying to do, teacher? And they said, no, I don't want, I didn't try. But that time she was laughing. You see, she was laughing.
The teacher said it was the devil that led her to beat the girl.
So I said, okay, it's a devil, but you know most corporal punishment is not accepted. She said, yes, I know, but it's not I didn't use a corporal punishment at school, but really, that's why I said it's a devil, this thing.
The teacher was allowed to return to teach at Nalinkamva, where she has access to more than 1,400 pupils who attend the school. The family wants her to be struck off the roll to protect other children from a similar fate.
This distinguished CEO would say the best way to enjoy a brandy is whilst wearing diamond-encrusted lamb's wool socks, accompanied by
the smell of fresh money. Woo!
Really? Sock diamonds? Well, we'd say a brandy enjoyed with last night's pizza works just as well.
Get a Clipdrift brandy plus a 2-litre Coca-Cola for only $124.99 from Tops at Spar.
violence against women. It also talks to such behavior where teachers, instead of educating kids and give them dignity, they strip them of their dignity.
The First Lady.
The First Lady, her action, it's just unacceptable. I must say that it cannot be condoned. If I had it my way, I would say we had to act and make sure that he goes to jail.
This scourge is not ceasing.
The angry people, the intolerant, it's so huge. So then the scourge finds itself within that particular environment. You cannot say that it's a standalone. It's influenced by social ills, economic challenges.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Welcome back. You're still watching SABC's Prime News. Now, a staff member at the Adelaide Tambo School in Soweto has been arrested for assaulting a physically disabled pupil. This after a video of an incident went viral.
The staff has been suspended and charged with assault. Please take care. The following visuals are graphic.
KwaZulu-Natal's education officials have suspended a deputy principal of an Umlazi High School south of Durban. The suspension follows a video that went viral on social media showing a teacher caning pupils.
We will, by the end of this year, be publishing in our website the names of the educators, their ID numbers, their last schools, and whether they struck off definitely or whether they struck off indefinitely.
What we want to do as a department is to encourage learners and parents and even communities, whenever you suspect or know of any such incidents, to please report it immediately to the department. They could either report it via our Safe Schools toll-free helpline. That number is 0800 45 4647.
According to activist groups, there seems to be a lack of clarity about who has the ultimate responsibility to hold teachers accountable. Is it the Department of Education or the South African Council of Educators?
Well, SACE is it's an entity of the department. Their task is to handle all issues around teacher professionalism, which means they will do the disciplinary cases, they will handle the reports. They also compile data on the number of teachers who are involved in all sorts of things that are deemed unprofessional, because when a teacher wants to become a teacher to work in a school, you would register with SACE, you are given a certificate, and you also sign a code of ethics. And one of the provisions in that code of ethics is that you will abide by the ethical standards that have been set for the profession. And if you act outside those provisions, then you could be struck off the roll, and a good number have been struck off the roll. I think in Gauteng alone, about 35 or so teachers have been struck off the roll or have been dismissed in the past 18 months or so for involvement in these types of things. And if SACE strikes you off the roll, it means that you can't teach again in this country. So that's what we do. But also as a department, we have a huge role to play because we employ the teachers. So we need to make sure that we remind them about their responsibilities, and we'll continue to do so. And we do it, but for some strange reason, people continue to contravene the law.
Despite corporal punishment being banned in schools in 1997 under the Children's Act, the Department of Basic Education says the country has seen an increase of corporal punishment being used as a form of discipline. This is concerning, especially when the patron for education in the KwaZulu-Natal province, Goodwill Zwelithini, spoke out in support of corporal punishment earlier this month.
Well, people, even those that occupy sensitive or even high positions, also have a right to make their personal opinions. We believe that he was making that type of statement in his personal capacity, not as a patron of education, because if that's the case, then it's a contradiction of what the law says. We're talking here about the Schools Act and all other acts that govern education. but the ultimate law is the Constitution, and we are guided by that. There is definitely an increase. We have picked that up. We are receiving reports from different parts of the country on a daily basis, and that comes as a huge concern to us, because it means that the messages that we are conveying to our teachers to desist from doing this are not really being heard. If they are being heard, they are being ignored, and it means that we need to do so much more to try bring down and eventually eradicate corporal punishment.
The Education Department is clear that those teachers who are found guilty of corporal punishment should face the full might of the law.
If you have broken the law, then the law should take its course. We have seen instances where a teacher has been sent to jail, and we thought that that particular case was going to be used as a deterrent to discourage others from doing the same. But we are seeing a continuation of such incidents where teachers are still administering corporal punishment. But we support that view, because the law is very clear and there are no conditions. And what we can do from the side of the department is to dismiss them. But any other person, including the parents of the affected learners, are free as well to open criminal cases with the police.
He had a strong sense of what has been called the art of the possible. Step by step, the long-term haul. And the big demand here was not to lose sight of that final prize. I was deeply struck by his calm, quiet dignity, and also by a very beautiful face, you know, just at peace with himself in a way, and also the scars, the traditional scars, and yet he was wearing a suit, and that for me summed up this whole person, an African bearing his tradition, and yet having mastered the skills of the West, which he was now using against the colonizers.
For a number of years, civil society organizations have been concerned by the disconnect between the law and the actions of teachers and parents who continue to use corporal punishment as a form of discipline. But in what is considered a major win for social justice organizations, the Gauteng High Court last week declared that reasonable chastisement of a child by a parent is no longer a valid shield against a charge of common assault.
I would say it was a victory for child rights in South Africa. The court ruled, the Gauteng High Court ruled, that the common law defense of reasonable chastisement is no longer, it's not in line with the Constitution. And that's really a victory for child rights across, for children in South Africa. We've been campaigning for a long time, in fact for more than a decade, for corporal punishment to be outlawed in the home, and this really paves the way for this to happen. Any form of violence often starts in the home and it transcends out to school and into the communities. So that's where it starts, and if you can start prohibiting it in the home and curbing children's experiences, you then interrupt it from happening in other spaces. If you're looking at children that's subjected to corporal punishment at a very young age, it has significant long-term effects, and it has effects if a child's subjected to corporal punishment early on, it affects brain development. It affects attachment as well with the parent. We also see consequences in around the cognitive development of the child that then impacts on the child's ability to learn, increase learning disabilities as well as behavioural problems in children. So the impact's massive.
Matthew says that the reasonable chastisement defence was open to interpretation in a court of law, as there are many beliefs as to what reasonable is when beating a child.
It is critical for us to abolish it simply because it is very difficult for a court to establish what is reasonable. We all will have different interpretations of it. So in terms of having that in the law, it means that there's no one size fits all. So my judgment would be different than yours, and what would be ruled as reasonable in one case might be seen as unreasonable in another. And there is such a grey line between what constitutes discipline and what is in fact abusive behaviour that we have to take it out of that context where everything, you cannot rule on that. Where it is such an outdated way of looking at it. In fact, it's been there for about 100 years. I think the victory is a victory for all children in South Africa. It's something that the children's rights organisations have been campaigning for many, many years, more than a decade in fact. But the next steps are really that we should get it into the Children's Act, so with the amendment next year, and this paves the way for it to be within the Children's Act. The Department of Social Development, in their submission to the High Court, agreed that this is unconstitutional, so we have agreement from the department, so I don't think there's going to be a problem with that. But it does mean we've also got to be working within communities for parents to understand what this means. And it's not about policing parents, but finding positive ways of parents then disciplining children. So I think it's going to mean a lot of hard work within communities for us to shift our ideas of parenting as well. So although there's a victory, I think the work ahead is still quite good. It's going to be difficult work, and it's going to be a long road ahead for us.
According to social justice organisation Sonke Gender Justice, training on corporal punishment as a human rights abuse for teachers as well as parents is sorely needed.
The teachers, if you engage them, they never received a training on corporal punishment. What they received is the policy that there is this policy about the corporal punishment. Teachers are not allowed now to beat the children in school. They never received a proper training to say this is the corporal punishment, this is the consequences that are happening to children if they receive corporal punishment. So this is the way how to deal with the issue so that they can stop using corporal punishment. But we are saying today, if it is wrong to beat your partner, it is also wrong to beat a child. It's an abuse also. So we need to work together, the government and civil society, the schools, to work together, and the parents, to say that how do we sit down together and make sure that we advocate for the rights of our children, but also we don't say to the parents they must not discipline their children, but they must discipline their children using a positive discipline, not a negative discipline called corporal punishment.
The Basic Education Department Minister, Angie Motshekga, early last month announced that her department had developed a protocol on corporal punishment to deal with the scourge in the country's schools. The protocol will focus on several key issues, including a look at positive ways to discipline pupils.
It is aimed to try clarify every issue around the issue of corporal punishment. One of the things we want to look at is the definition itself of corporal punishment. What is it? Because right now we're looking at a stick being used or at some object being used to hit a learner, when in fact there could be other activities as well that could be deemed as corporal punishment. So we want to agree and have a uniform understanding of what corporal punishment is across the country for the sector to be able to understand what that is. And once we're done with that, we need to come with minimum sanctions or maximum sanctions to be imposed on those people that would be found guilty for administering corporal punishment. And this we do so that there's uniform application of this particular law or policy or regulation for everyone to know exactly what it is that we're talking about, so that we are in a position to talk to people about it. Because right now it's only the law in the Act that says it is illegal, but we haven't really, as education, created an environment where we put in place clarity that will help everyone to have the same understanding of what we're talking about.
Although a step in the right direction, the timeframes for the implementation of the protocols is not yet clear. For the girl and her mother, justice delayed is justice denied. They are holding on to the hope that the criminal justice system will hold the teacher accountable for her actions.
South Africa.
Rights and recourse tackles constitutional issues.
When South Africa became a constitutional democracy, we had a fairly sound legal system in place requiring the constitution to guide the direction in which it must go and the way in which it must be refashioned.
The Justice Ministry, the custodian of human rights.
We actually have a plan to come up with a comprehensive review of our human rights instruments.
Advocates dealing with evidence.
Sometimes you have to use a crook to catch a crook. So we expected that the credibility would really be taken to